Great. Okay, we're all good? Right.
Shortly.
Well,
Live now.
okay, thanks. Right, so I would
Derek
like to welcome...
is now joining.
Sorry, who was that joining?
Derek from Audit New Zealand's just joined.
Ah, brilliant. Welcome, Derek. We're just opening the meeting. Linda Robertson speaking.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to declare the meeting open. We have an apology from Neil Gillespie, who can't be with us today. And Rebecca, if we can just note the minutes as well that we have Tracy and Tamer in as observers as well in the meeting. And of course we have Audit New Zealand here for upcoming item just in a minute. So first up, if we can just confirm the minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee on the 28th of February. Do we have any comments or questions on that? No? Okay, well I would so move that we confirm those minutes.
I'll second that, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Tim. Okay, all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Okay, minutes are confirmed. We have declarations of interest. Any amendments or alterations or new declarations that need to be made on there? No? Okay.
Excuse me, Chair.
Yes?
Can we, this is Pam speaking, can we move and second the apologies, please?
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay, I will move that we accept the apology from Neil.
I'll second that, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Okay. Right, so declarations of interest. So we are now to Audit New Zealand. We have with us Jenna and Derek to take us through the proposed audit plan for 1920, engagement letter and the proposal to conduct the audit. So I'll just hand over to you, Jenna and Derek, and then we can open up for any questions after that.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I would take the audit plan as read, but just maybe for purposes of the meeting, I'll highlight some areas that we've identified from a risk perspective and the areas that we'll be focusing on for this year's audit. As always, asset revaluations is probably top of the list in terms of the risk area, the biggest item on your statement of financial position. And again, this year, we'll be looking at your revaluations concerning your parks and reserves for this year to ensure that the valuation is done appropriately. Management has indicated that this will be done by an external valuer. So we'll just be going through his valuations, looking at the assumptions and judgments being made and ensure that's reasonable. Also for the assets in a non-revaluation year, again, we'll perform a desktop exercise to ensure that those values are still consistent to the values that were to the valuations that were performed last year, just to ensure that there's no material movements from last year's valuation that had been performed on your infrastructure assets, your land and buildings, and other operational assets. Also, again, a focus on your capital projects with an emphasis to ensure that the split between CapEx and OpEx is appropriate. There's quite a few capital projects happening in the area and in the district, so they are quite relevant for our audit. Then, as always, we'll just focus on management override of internal controls, as that is a key and a significant risk area for us. I think the new thing from this year is the impact of COVID-19. I think all organizations across the country and probably across the world has been impacted by this. So we need to determine what is the impact on your organization specifically. And also, I think it's important for management to assess the impact, go through an exercise of determining per line item in the financial statements to what extent those specific line items are affected by COVID-19. Rates probably top of mind in terms of how does your rates get affected by COVID-19, and also there might be a knock-on effect on your asset valuations, although in the local government environment, probably not as relevant as in other public sector entities. So there's a big focus on COVID-19. We've also shared a lot of resources on our website, and there is links in the management report that you can go and have a look and ensure that your financial statements are compliant with the areas that we've identified as being impacted by COVID-19. The other area that I just want to mention as well is around the 4 well-beings that, as you know, has been reintroduced. So again, for us, the focus is, when we look at your Schedule 10 disclosure, is to ensure that for this, you're actually making specific reference to your objectives and measures to which well-being they belong, whereas in the past, you just needed to ensure that any objective or measure does relate to the community as a whole. So that's something new that has come in terms of your performance reporting, where you need to be specific in terms of identifying to which well-being your different objectives and measures belong. Then just in terms of timing, again, we've agreed the timing with management, but I think as a result of the COVID-19, we are continuously assessing that in terms of our capability to deliver by the respective deadlines. We've actually just come from a meeting with our CEO, where we are negotiating with Treasury to see to what extent deadlines at a global level can be moved. Because across the board, we've seen a big impact in terms of our resourcing, but also from a client's perspective, their readiness to provide information. Because again, as I've stated earlier, this has resulted in quite a few risk areas that have now been identified, and management really need to ensure that you consider and make appropriate judgments and assumptions around the risks emanating from COVID-19 and how that impacts your financial statement and annual report preparation. So I'll pause there. Those are the areas that I wanted to highlight from the audit plan. Gina, I don't know if there's anything addition that you would like to add from that, but I'm happy to take questions on the plan for now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've got no further comments from me. I think you've covered off everything, Derek.
Okay, so any questions or comments to Derek or Gina on the plan? Sanchia or Leanne, anything further you'd like to add?
Leanne speaking here. I'm comfortable with this plan. We are already preparing for our annual report timeline, so the team is already starting to get across that.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as the annual plan is adopted, that'll be our next focus.
Right, and we're scheduled to meet on the 28th of October, so that works in with the dates at the moment, doesn't it?
No, we need to adopt with council by the 31st of October.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe off the top of my head, the verbal opinion comes through the 27th. I think we might need to have a conversation about whether that audit and risk can be reviewing our annual report ahead of that, because if you make any recommendations to change, we won't have time to make those changes.
Right, so okay, so that's what I was wondering. Okay, so I think we just need to be, we can have a chat at the end, later in the meeting at the end, just what date perhaps is better.
That would be good if we could, thank
Right.
you.
Yep.
Maybe if I can just again, as I said, from our discussions earlier this morning, and although it's not yet confirmed, the proposal that us and the Office of the Auditor General is putting forward to Treasury is to have all our June balance date audits moved out, or those where we would have reported by the end of October, that they be moved out to the 15th of December. But as I said, it's still something that's in discussions. Currently, we are working towards the current timeframes, but just to note that if that comes through, and it will have a knock-on effect and repercussions across the sector for all audits where we would have signed by 31 October. So just take that into account.
Yeah.
So it might be worthwhile maybe holding off 1 or 2 weeks just for us to get finality on that before dates are confirmed.
Right, because what we can always do is have a special one-off meeting if we need to. We'll probably be looking to meet ourselves anyway around that time. So we can, if need be, then have another one that just for end of year. Leanne, you had a question?
Yes, I'm interested to hear on that one, Derek. I'm just wondering how that will impact on long-term planning as well, because we're scheduled to have obviously our annual report completed end of October, November looking at having our 30-year infrastructure plan audited, and then of course we've got consultation documents, etc., probably February to be audited.
Yes.
How will all of that impact?
Yes, I think that's why the proposal that is being put forward is to have it finalised by 15 December, so that there's no carryover into the next financial year, and that it doesn't impact on long-term plans. I'm not sure to what extent, because we had to leave that meeting early, and I'm sure the LTP will be a discussion point as well. So I can maybe get back to you on that offline and see what was discussed in terms of extending LTP deadlines, or how that impacts the timing around that.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions? No? Okay. Right. Okay, so perhaps we could move on then to the engagement letter, which I think is probably pretty straightforward, but Derek, if you want to sort of speak to that briefly.
Yes, I think from the engagement letter perspective, there's it's a standard engagement letter. There's nothing new from prior years, so that is pretty standard. We normally issue a new engagement letter when we also issue a new fee proposal, and normally the fee proposal would be in effect for 3 years, so our engagement letters run concurrently with that. But again, seeing that the circumstances under which we signing this year's engagement letter and fee proposal, we've only proposed a 1-year fee due to the Auditor General approving an increase of 1.5%. But we've also included in the APL what our expected effort would have been, and recovery would have been on a full recovery basis, so that you get an idea, so that for next year when we negotiate, you've got a better understanding of the fee makeup.
Yeah. Okay, so any questions or comments on that one?
Oh yeah, sorry, Linda, I have a question, Stephen here.
Mm-hmm.
Are we needing to be budgeting a lot more for the audit process going forward, looking back at the figures over the previous years?
I think for next year's audit, again, the proposal that we'll be putting forward is in the region of between 130 and 150, based on what we've reflected in your audit fee proposal, which is based on there's certain areas that we've identified in there for which we believe, as changed, there's changes within the environment or within your entity or within the requirements for us to audit, and that is reflected in that fee proposal, although it's not included in this year's fee because the increase is only 1.5%.
Yeah.
But what we're saying is on a full recovery basis, we would have our fee would have been between 130 to 150. So that is probably in the region that we will want to negotiate next year going forward.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions? No? Good. Okay, and then we just have the proposal to conduct the audit, and that's for the 2020, 21, 22 financial years. Anything you want to, although we just got the fee for the 2020 year. So Derek, anything you want to draw our attention to on this? Or,
Yes, as I said, I think the big thing from this is the OAG agreed to a 1.5% increase across local government.
Yeah.
And yeah, just that we've only are negotiating or agreed on a 1-year fee, and next year we'll have to agree on a fee again for the following years. But I think we've given an indication of the areas that we believe needs to be included in the fee, and then what that fee would have been had it not been for COVID-19 and the agreed 1.5%.
Okay. Right. Any further questions? No? Okay, so we have just the recommendations here, if I just read them out. Recommendation that the report be received. Recommended that the Mayor, on behalf of Council, sign the Audit New Zealand plan for the 1920 annual report, and recommended that the Mayor, on behalf of Council, sign the engagement letter and proposal to conduct the audits for 2020 through to 2022, which is the 3-year period. And the engagement letter is just for the 2020 audit. I will so move. If someone would like to second that.
I'll second that, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Tom. All those in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thanks, guys. I know everyone's mostly muting, so which is good. But yeah, so as long as there's no one saying against it, then we're okay. Right. So thank you, Jenna and Derek. I think you are leaving us now. Is that correct? Thank you very much, and we'll hear back from you later in the year.
Thank you very much, Chair. I see that the management report of last year is also included in the agenda. If there's anything from that you would like comments on?
Certainly, if there's anything, yeah.
Okay, so maybe just again at a high level, I would take the report as read, but I think we've made some recommendations in there, specifically maybe around, again, the valuation and the valuation process. From last year's audit, we did identify that your assets increased by just under 100 million, and that was as a result of changes in the unit rates, the optimization rules, and inflation. So we did quite a bit of work because it was identified as a significant risk area. So a lot of work did go into that valuation, and we did deem that increase appropriate. But emanating from that, I think the valuers also made some recommendations to processes that council have in place, and we concurred with those recommendations. They were around your roading, your data quality on RAM, and also your bridges, that the method of that the bridges are outside of RAM and that can maybe be included in RAM. So just the data quality that you've got in the system just needs to be reviewed from time to time and ensure that that's appropriate. And then also your 3 waters, that probably more detail can be included in the system and not at a high level as it was currently reflected. So just some improvements around those processes did come through in the recommendations. The other area that I would like to touch on is maybe around the annual report preparation, and I take note of management's comments in terms of proper two-way communication and both parties adhering to deadlines. But again, I would like to re-emphasize and ensure that management implements a quality review process prior to us receiving the annual report, so that once we receive the annual report, it's a full and complete product. So either getting the audit committee to review that prior to us receiving it, or ensuring that there are some in-house review process that once we get on site and audit, we've got a full set of accounts that we are looking at, and not that there's still moving items that needs to be adjusted within the annual report or the financial statements.
Mm-hmm.
So those are probably just the two areas that I would like to touch on that came from
David
the management board.
Is now joining.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So just we have sort of jumped to, sorry, just make sure everyone's on the same board. We're on 20.2.5 and just getting the update from Derek from Audit on that status report, although we'll still address it in the when we come to it sort of in our meeting as well from a management perspective. But just on that, because we're talking through preparation for this year, Leanne, can we get any feedback from you just on that process and how it's going to work this year to address those issues raised by Audit New Zealand?
Certainly, Chair. Last year was a very new finance team, and there was a lot of learnings. I didn't walk into that team until right at the end of July. We're already planning our annual report timeline. We've actually started quite a bit of the work and feel confident that this year we're in a much better situation than we were 12 months ago. So a lot more relaxed about it. There was a lot of toing and froing around. There was a significant amount of asset revaluations done last year, including because of the movements in growth. Our property and buildings, we elected to get them done a year earlier because we knew they would have moved more than 10%. So there was a lot of added pressure to the team, and as I said, a new team as well.
So it should be a much tidier process this year.
We believe so.
Yep. That's good news, Derek.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, we will circle back around to this agenda item, but whilst we had Audit New Zealand here, I think it was worth just getting a bit of colour. Any more questions from any questions from anyone else just for Audit New Zealand before they leave? No, I think we're okay. Thank you very much, Jenna and Derek.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, committee.
Thank you.
Thank you, management. Bye.
Bye. Okay, so
Multiple people are now exiting.
we now move to the internal audit plan update, and I think, do we have David Seth with us?
Yes, David Seth here. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, all.
Good morning. Thanks for joining. It's just voices coming from the ether for me here, but anyway. So I will hand over to, sorry, I'll just get to where we're meant to be going. So we're at 20.2.4 internal audit plan. So I think, Leanne, you're perhaps talking to this first, are you?
Correct, yes, I am.
Yeah,
so good morning, everyone. This is Leanne again. I'll take the paper as read. What I'd like to just acknowledge is that we left out a component around our infrastructure updates, particularly around the audit of Lake Dunstan water supply, which has actually been completed, and we're waiting on a final report. And Patrick from Julie's team will be preparing a report for Audit and Risk Committee at our next meeting. Our NZTA procedural and technical audits have also been delayed due to the COVID-19. Obviously, this requires on-site visits and inspections of roads, so we're hoping to get that done as soon as able. We're also scheduled to have an audit undertaken on water shortly. and it may be worth, I just want to note that it is still a priority. If the Three Waters reform is proceeding, and Three Waters potentially could be a risk to council in the next 4 years, so this becomes significant benchmarking information. And there's been a large comparative analysis of the Three Water deliveries in the Otago and Southland regions as part of this investigation into water collaboration. And hopefully this will be available in December, January. Julie may be able to speak more on that. Other than that, you'll see that we are close to completion of our accounts payable and payroll audits that were planned for this year. They got delayed slightly again with COVID-19, but we've been in touch with Deloitte and they'll be on site early June, and we'll have that completed for the next audit and risk meeting as well. I had hoped to do a GST audit this year because I understand we haven't had one for at least 5 years, and that's a concern from where I sit, but I could not juggle our budget this year, so I'm hoping we can see that as a priority for the new financial year. And there's also an line item there on the cybersecurity. So that's pretty much the report from where I sit, and happy to hand over to David on their advice for trends of what's going on around our risk for internal audits.
Thanks, Leanne, and appreciate you taking the time out to for me to come and speak. I just made the offer to attend to Leanne just to feed back to you what I'm seeing elsewhere, and primarily to answer any questions that you have. For those of you that don't know me, I'm a partner based in Christchurch, and I lead our risk advisory offering for the South Island. I have done some work with you folks before. I delivered the fraud awareness training that you did about 3 years ago, and also that risk identification exercise. So I know the council and know the area reasonably well. Firstly, commend Leanne on getting the internal audit program firing again, and I would second her comments on GST, because I think about other clients of ours, you know, the guidance generally from the IRD is to have a review every 3 years just to make sure that that things are all in order. So I think that should be a priority. In terms of what I'm seeing at my other clients, in terms of the public sector, obviously there's a real focus on costs and cost saving. So there is a role for internal audit to play in that, in terms of trying to identify where efficiencies can occur. There's a lot of councils are taking to heart the guidance that was issued on the 3rd of April from the Auditor General on governance, risk and compliance matters. A couple of conversations I'm having with others are on, there's potentially an angle on lessons learned from your response to the incident itself. So a kind of an exercise of what did we do and what could we do better if something similar happens in the future. There's definitely a focus on fraud. You know, my role is half managing internal audits and half doing fraud investigations and fraud prevention work, and the research is pretty clear that after these big shocks, that the incidences of fraud being highlighted and investigated and coming to light do increase significantly. A combination of organisations looking really closely at every dollar they spend, plus desperation on the part of employees and potentially suppliers. And one of the things that I've been recommending to clients that they do, which is a really low touch, easy thing to do, is just get some communication from the CEO acknowledging that fact and just reminding staff that they're the eyes and ears of the organisation. They're the organisation's best fraud prevention, fraud detection resource, and that they discharge their responsibility with one phone call or one conversation, and just so that you're raising that awareness. Leanne mentioned cyber. That's obviously another issue or another risk that's been heightened with all the changes that people have had to make really quickly. And then the other thing that I'm seeing from other public sector clients is the Auditor General's guidance on the 3rd of April is quite interesting, because normally you define sensitive expenditure as, you know, your travel and your entertainment, and they've broadened that definition in terms of, is it an acceptable way of spending public money? And so there's been a lot of emergency procurement done, and potentially a lot of procurement done where the standard policies and procedures haven't been followed, and I've got some clients that are having a look at that as well. So those are probably the main things I wanted to cover off, but very happy to take any questions.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so any questions for David? Okay, I did have one, perhaps just more from Sanchia, just given that feedback from David on fraud and that fraud awareness, and not necessarily going off and doing an audit, but certainly what I've heard is also, as David said, with the increased sort of financial pressures, and sometimes things having to be done quickly, and also the added complexity of people working remotely can also create that opportunity or the necessity, we use that word very loosely, for sort of fraud or just a breakdown in controls and compliance. What comfort can we get, or what messages are perhaps you're planning in light of that?
Hey there, can you hear me? Linda at Sanchia here.
Hi.
I think this was something we have raised with staff before. We've recently released a suite of papers around fraud, bribery and corruption, but I would envisage this is something we should be continually talking to staff about. I'd like to think we have pretty open communication where people do feel that they can come and speak to various people across the organisation, including the role that is specifically focused on risk and procurement.
Great. We the program that we had and the appointment that we had was from 2017 to 2019. So that engagement is about to end. We've sort of got a list of audits in the financial 21 plus, and I hear that GST should be one that's also perhaps prioritised. Could we get a proposal back for our next meeting on what the audit plan should be looking like going forward? Is that something, Leanne, that's coming to us?
Absolutely. I was looking for direction today to see if we could bring forward a new plan. There's some things we definitely need to keep in there, but yes, I'd like to do that, and that was been my conversation with Deloitte. What is the critical ones?
Yeah, so I think if we can get a priority and another 3-year look forward, that will come back.
Certainly.
Okay. Any questions, comments? No? Okay. Right. Well, thank you, David, very much for attending. We look forward to getting the reviews back on the accounts payable and payroll. I think perhaps, yeah, that'll be great.
Thank you. Yeah, confident we'll get them done by the end of June. Like Leanne said, we're on site that week of the 8th of June. So, yeah, appreciate your time.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, sorry, I forgot to do the official bit. I'd like to move that the report be received. Someone can second that, please.
I'll second that, Madam Chair. It's Tim.
Is now exiting.
Great, thank you. Sorry, that was Tim seconding it. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Okay, thank you. Now we have Audit New Zealand, the management status report. Again, I think this is you, Leanne, and we've touched on, well, we had the feedback from the Audit New Zealand guys, but this is just you reporting to us on what actions have been done or not. So perhaps I'll hand over to you, first.
Thank you, Chair. And yes, I'll just touch base briefly on this. Again, I'll take the report as read. We have actually made good progress on the information that they've recommended us to, to make changes to, and it's looking like a good result. I guess we took comfort in the fact there was no urgent or necessary issues that they found with, but we take this report quite seriously and we work hard on it. Audit New Zealand touched on the issues around timing of our annual report, and we took that quite seriously and have put that as a key focus, but we've also pushed back a little bit too, to be fair, asking that they respect the same timelines, because we struggled quite a bit with that last year and that put the team under pressure. Other than that, happy to take questions.
Okay, so we've got an update on the outstanding audit action items from their last report, but there was also in that report some old audit action items. Have they been closed?
My understanding is, and I haven't got Jotham here, and he actually sends his apologies, he's gone on to leave a week earlier than we planned. My understanding is that we have, but we won't get those formally through until we do our final annual report. So at the interim report, everything we discussed looked positive, but until we get the final report through, we can't confirm that.
Okay. So what you're saying to us is you believe they're closed and you're waiting for Audit New Zealand to agree or confirm?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Can I just ask a question, Madam Chair, of
Absolutely.
Leanne?
Yep.
Thank you. It's Tim. Leanne, is the two things that are you talking about? I'm sorry, I've just become a little bit lost. Is that the independent review of journals and the review of general ledger reconciliations that are noted on in pages 88 and 89?
Correct.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Correct.
That's all I wanted.
Okay.
That's because they've been open for quite some time, so I'm glad to hear that they may well be closed. Thank you.
Yeah. What I think would be helpful, Leanne, is so the report that we've got here is just the audit action items, but you're referring only to the audit action items from the external audit. And what we need to see is an audit action item report that covers all audit action items. If we got that with a bit more detail, we could have a column, for example, that says management believes it's closed, we're just awaiting Audit New Zealand's confirmation, because that would make it clearer for us which ones are closed and not, because all we're told at the moment is there's 2 outstanding and we're not sure sort of which ones they are. So if we could get more of a list and of all outstanding audit action items, because I believe there would be some from the cybersecurity review or previous audits, but we're not seeing those yet.
Happy to do that.
Great. Okay. Thank you. But good news that the old ones are subject to Audit New Zealand gone. That's excellent work. Right. So the recommendation is that the report be received. Sorry, have we got any more questions or comments? No? Okay. I will move that the report be received. Second?
I'll second that, Madam Chair.
Thanks, Tim. Okay, all those in favour say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Great. Okay, good progress. Right, we move to now the risk management update, which is page 92 as we navigate the pack. Have we got Gabby with us or Leanne?
Yes, I'm here. Gabby speaking.
Hi.
Morning all. I'm taking the report as being read. So in terms of an update on Council's risk management, there has been some really good work in the risk management space since the last meeting in February of this year. And as noted in the report, a risk management policy has been developed, which is to be circulated to the executive team alongside a risk management framework. Now this will then be presented to Audit and Risk at the next meeting, which is held in October. Central Otago District Council is committed to the implementation of a comprehensive risk management framework and maintains an all-inclusive risk management approach, which aims to incorporate risk management into standard business processes while also maintaining alignment with Council's strategic objectives. So as mentioned in the last meeting, the continued pursuance of a risk-aware culture really is key to the development of a healthy and robust organisation. And alongside this, the policy and framework really aim to set a strong foundation for Council's risk management. So on that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Gabby? Gabby, I just had one. With the risk register as it's been reviewed, has anything come out of sort of the whole COVID experience that has perhaps changed some perspectives or new risks identified?
We're really still working on the risk register as it sits. I imagine there will be quite a few different areas which come out of it due to the COVID situation. Yeah. That's an ongoing thing at the moment.
Okay. Well, we certainly look forward to seeing it. It's a long time coming.
Yes.
Okay, any further comments or questions? Sancha, anything you'd like to add?
Not specifically, but I would just note that COVID's not over in terms of it's still happening to us.
Quite right.
And I guess we run that lens now over every single thing we do. And definitely appreciate that the risk management framework is something that's been on the work program for a very long time, and Gabby as well as the executive team are very keen to see that completed.
Excellent. Okay. Right, so we have the recommendations here. The recommendation, the report we received, and that the committee note the update on the risk management context. So I will so move. If we'd like to second that.
I'll second that, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All those in favour say aye.
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 Against? Carried. Great. Thanks, Gabby. Okay, gosh, we're ahead of time, aren't we? Ooh. Excellent. Right, so procurement roadmap.
So that's me again, Gabby. Moving on to an update of the procurement activities now. I'm taking the report as being read. So there's been a lot of work undertaken in the procurement space as of late, with the aim to update and refresh documents, procedures and policies. So the New Zealand government has released quite a bit of documentation surrounding areas which local governments may wish to concentrate their efforts on. Some of the topics can include good governance, conflicts of interest, contract management, and achieving broader outcomes through procurement, among a few others. The procurement policy is currently sitting with the executive team in draft form, and we aim to use procurement to positively impact on the economic, environmental, social and cultural well-being of the community, the region in which we live, and New Zealand as a whole. Procurement decisions must really be workable with the need to have a streamlined procurement process, which aids in the shovel-ready projects that Council hopes to undertake, as well as balanced with secure, transparent procurement choices with minimal risk and maximum benefit. And that is the aim. This is quite a complex undertaking, as I'm sure you can all imagine. So it's really important that we get it right the first time. As mentioned, these documents aim to sit in alignment with the government rules of procurement, as well as the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment, as well as aligning also with various other procurement policies and strategies from a number of other councils and private entities. In terms of timelines, it has been a bit difficult figuring out how to get the procurement policy up for adoption with the meeting scheduled this year. So the procurement policy would generally go to audit and risk and then go on to council for adoption. So with the scheduled meetings this year, that is not quite possible, however. The aim is to get the proposed policy to council for the July meeting so that it may be adopted in order to support our year going forward. So my question is it possible that Audit and Risk would consider an additional meeting in late June? And happy to take any questions.
Perhaps we'll just address that first, because that was something that I thought maybe following with the risk management policy as well, looking to have it ready in June, that it could, and when we get to the register of policies, I see quite a few are expected to be completed in June. So I think that would be well worthwhile to delay implementation of these sorts of policies until October. You know, for us to meet in October, I think is very inefficient. So I'm certainly keen that we do it. Other members of the committee, would that be suitable?
Yes, from Stephen, anyway. Yeah.
Yes, from me, Nigel.
Okay, so if we can find a date, and it can just be a, you know, whatever policies are ready, and we can have a look at them when we get to the register. But certainly for the procurement policy, and I would think for the risk management policy. Is it also, Gabby, the contract management policy? Is that a separate policy, or is that part of?
That's a separate document. I think it goes with the procurement package, but it's, for me, it's quite unlikely that it will be completed by June with the other policies coming out. Yeah,
so that would be for a later meeting, but the procurement policy. Okay, yes. Right. All right. If we could, sorry, question. Rebecca, was that a question that you had, or is it just a chat?
We're just clarifying when's the best time for a meeting. So if staff do that offline and.
Yeah. I think if we do one in June, and it's more just sort of in key policies that go, because otherwise we're delaying for council. If then we need another meeting, changing that October meeting to accommodate year-end schedules, then we can do that. I think we've just got to be flexible at the moment. And anything the question I had is just around procurement as it's happening at the moment, or has had to happen at the moment. Was there adequate flexibility around the company allowing that to be done in a timely but in a controlled manner?
I think at the moment with the current procurement policy, it is a bit slower and a bit more clunky. So we're still conducting procurement, but I think going forward, we'd like to make that slightly more streamlined while maintaining the risk, you know, factor, so that's all above board and everything like that. Yeah. Did that answer? Sorry, Leanne?
So, Leanne here. We are still able to comply with procurement in a robust manner. We just need to put in some more options so that we can look at a more efficient way of doing this. And central government is certainly encouraging all councils to look at this. It's that fine balancing line, and Deloitte spoke on it this morning, of making the efficiencies but still protecting council.
Right. Okay, so any more comments or questions? Comments from management, questions from committee? No, all good. Okay, so the recommendation is that the report be received and that the committee note the update on procurement activities. And I think we should just add to that, the committee will has agreed to convene sometime in June to allow policies that, in particular the procurement policy and other policies that may be ready for review prior to going to council. I will so move if we'd like to get that seconded.
I'll do that, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Tim. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Gabby. I feel like we're on the cusp of a lot of work being sort of completed, which is great. Okay, so we're 10:19. We're scheduled for a break at 10:30. We've got Leanne. I think we're okay to fit in the financial performance. Is that?
I believe we are. We've got Kim on standby to take you through this.
Okay.
Jotham sends his apologies. He's currently looking after mum, or hopefully soon to be mum, and cannot be here today, but Kim is available.
Okay, well, if Kim can come in, otherwise we could break now and then she could come in. So whatever's easiest.
Oh, good morning all. I'm ready to go.
Okay, great.
As Leanne said, apologies from Jotham. I'm filling in for his place here. I will take the report as read. However, I do have a couple of things that I would like to highlight. One is around debt. And just to reiterate what the report says, we have the River Terrace development, which was the large debt holder, is down to 69,000 now, which is better than it started off with a few months ago in the last report, which was around about 200k. We're hoping to move to next year Debt Management Central. Leanne probably has a bit more background on that, but the advantage is they're cheaper, and they release payments earlier than our current supplier, so it would help with the cash flow. Looking at investments, just to date, we are looking fairly healthy with 14 million in our investments, but going forward into next year, this will drop significantly. And in our consultation process as part of the annual plan, we've gone out for discussion regarding joining the LGFA, because we will be going into debt next year. I'll just look at the profit and loss. There was just a couple of things I wanted to highlight here. Is the land sales previously weren't in the annual plan, or the cost of sales related to that. We have changed that in the forecast. And once again, it's quite hard to judge, so it does fluctuate in variances. But the 1.8 variance, favourable variance, is offset with the overrun in cost of sales. The other area was capital expenditure. We are below that, and predicted probably for year end there'll be significant carry forwards due to COVID-19. And the overruns on some of this capital expenditure is basically timing and slight overrun in vehicles, which is offset by sales of the older vehicles that we're replacing. Happy to take any questions.
Okay, so open up to any questions or comments.
I've got one comment and two questions, Madam Chair. It's Tim speaking. Just a comment firstly, noting that on page 99 we're reviewing our terms of trade to allow interest to be charged on all outstanding debtors over 3 months. I'm just a bit surprised that hasn't always been the case, and probably leads me on to comment the blatantly obvious that debt management is going to become even more important as we head into these terrifying economic waters we have, and you never want to be the last on the list of people to get paid at times like this. So that's more a comment than anything. Page 103, talking about user fees and that there's a delay in invoicing of metered water bills. I had it in my mind, and I'm not sure how, that we were doing estimates during that time because we couldn't get out to do the readings. Have I got that wrong? It's just a clarification. It's not really appropriate.
That's correct. We did estimates for the invoicing.
In that case, how has there been a delay in the invoicing if we were using estimates?
If I can respond to that, it's Leanne here. Mayor Tim. There was still a delay while we went through that process to ensure that we could do it.
Oh, yeah.
And there was still some work that we had planned to do in March that got delayed as we went into lockdown, which means we didn't get to invoice. So there was that timing.
Good as gold. So it was more because it was the first time it happened and there needed to be some new sort of processes put in place.
There was
Makes
two
sense.
components. The April is where we did the assessment. The March we missed being able to do initially because we went into lockdown, didn't have that time to get assessments done. So that all moved into April.
Excellent, thank you. And this might not be the forum, it probably isn't, but I had asked this question previously and I cannot find an answer. Page 105, there's underspends in elderly persons housing for double glazing and furniture and fittings renewal. It's a significant underspend and I'm just wondering why that work has been delayed. And I had emailed that.
My understanding is they're waiting on tenants because you can't double glazer. My understanding is it's related to tenants in the housing here.
We may need to come back to you for a proper answer on that one.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, Louise here.
Hello, Louise.
I think that there's a couple of things in there. One is waiting for units to be vacated, and it may also be impacted on I think they were going to, when the earthquake assessment was done, maybe do it at the same time. But I'll follow up because Janice has come back to me on that, and I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Nigel here, Chair. I had a question on page 99 of accounts receivable. It's been broken down by the size of the debt, but there's no breakdown according to age.
No, noted. We could have that in the next report.
I think that would be handy, especially if we could see a trend. That would be helpful. I think, as Tim said, we're moving into what could be very rocky waters, and getting some sort of trend analysis on that could be helpful.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, that's the most important, well, an important thing to see, I believe.
Mm. Okay, so note that. Anything else?
Yes, Stephen speaking. 102. I'm just going down. Invested assets and assets found of 4.96 million. Are they referring to central stories? Was that all central stories, or is there something else that added up to that amount, like the Royal Fire building? The way I read that, for a start, it says 4.96 million from central stories building.
Sorry, I don't have the detail. I'm assuming it was revalued, but
it's Leanne here. If I can just add to that, the rural fire was from the previous financial year, so that won't be showing up in this current year. My understanding that is the building, and it was just a miscommunication as it moved across between two areas, and it got picked up as part of our reconciliations that we now carry out, or more in-depth ones.
Shows the benefit of doing the reconciliations, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Okay, so any more questions? Okay, right. Well, we've got a couple of requests or suggestions there for, well, one in particular for just improving the report, but I've got to say I think this has evolved into an excellent report. Thank you. Thanks to the team, and you know, we really are getting some very good information now. So yeah, just wanted to acknowledge that. And formally move that we receive the report.
I'll second that, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Tim. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Okay. With that, we're now scheduled for a quick break before we come back to health and safety. Rebecca, how do we do the break? What do we do here?
Oh, hello. Yes, I will now mute all and put up a screen advising any watching from home that we are on a 15-minute adjournment, and we'll reconvene at 10:45.
Okay, and at 10:45 you kind of reliven us, is that?
Then I change the screen back to live, and everybody needs to unmute themselves. I can only mute, I can't unmute.
Great. Okay, right, we'll do that. See you in 15 minutes, everyone. How are we going, Rebecca?
Good. We have the meeting. We're
Yeah.
still live.
Are we?
Yes. We can't hit pause in the live environment.
Oh, there we go.
So we just mute all during this 15-minute. If we needed a lunch break, we set it up as 2 different sessions.
Right, fair enough. Oh, well, the public can hear our chit chat.
They can. I'm sure they're thrilled by it.
Very good.
Potentially members of the public, and welcome if you're there. It's the Ms speaking who joined and could well be thrilled by that. So.
Chit chat.
Someone sing a song. Yeah, right, Tamer.
Oh, now, I've got a fan heater here. That's not interrupting the sound, is it? It seems a bit noisy at my end, but if it's not noisy at your end, then it's okay.
I wouldn't have known you had it. No.
It's good, because otherwise I get a bit, it's crazy. You can either have me being sniffy and shivery or have the heater going. Gosh, we are well ahead of schedule, aren't we? You furiously emailing people in the background, Rebecca, saying, "Where are you?"
Yes, I'm texting people.
It's probably easier now with them being able to simply join the meeting as opposed to run from another part of the building or other things when things come out of time. So
Yeah, and that's all those sorts of things are sort of learnings for how we might do things differently going forward. Certainly missing sitting around a table. That's but there is that possibility of perhaps not so necessary maybe with everyone in the office, but at times just zooming people in. I know in the past we've had like auditors dial in, but could bring them in visually whilst we're sitting in our meeting, that would be great. So it's always just, taking the wee sort of learnings and saying, well, how could we do things differently going forward?
yeah, I think I found with the council meeting we had for the annual plan submissions, it went for over 8 hours in total, and as chair by the end of it, I was mentally incapable just about, because it's extremely exhausting, and it may be because it's using, trying to remember to unmute and doing all these things that are a bit unfamiliar, but long intense meetings, they're not easy on a format like this, and so when needs must, you do it, but for shorter meetings or for people who are only coming in for a brief period of time, gosh, everything's changed.
Exactly. Yeah.
And changed for the better. I never used to enjoy climbing on a plane at, leaving home at 5 in the morning and getting back at 10 at night to attend a meeting in Wellington. So.
Yeah, the necessity to do so is just a bit more challenged now, isn't it? It's just, well, really, do I need to be there or can we zoom in? Although I think it's easier. I use the word Zoom, sorry, video in.
Yeah.
But it is kind of easier if you've got all or not all. Having a meeting, if you've got half your meeting around a table and the other half of the participants on video, that's kind of a bit awkward too, the halfway shot.
Yeah, I think the participants on video are quite hindered, quite disadvantaged by it. You have to be very careful about that.
Yeah, whereas if everyone's on video, then it's kind of an opportunity. Yeah. Interesting. Oh, a couple more minutes. Okay, we might just need a show of hands. Who's all back in?
I'm waving my hand, Nigel.
Hey, Nigel. Oh no, we've lost your video.
Stephen here. I'll just say I'm here.
Great.
Here's proof.
Oh, there we go.
I'm here.
Oh gosh. Got you up on a big screen. I don't know what's happened there. Anyway. Rebecca must be doing something.
Yes, I'm just transferring the screens back.
Oh, I was like, I didn't touch it. I didn't touch it. Great. Okay, right. We're 10:45. We've got all the committee back, and I suspect everyone else who needs to be. So we'll reopen. And we got Bern with us. Rebecca, do you know?
I'm here.
Brilliant. Ah, there we go. Right. Welcome. So we're agenda item 20.2.9, which is page 107 of the pack, just to reorient everyone. And we have the health and safety and wellbeing report. And Bern, I will hand over to you. We will have read it, of course, but it's always good to get some talk through any highlights, anything you particularly want to draw our attention to, and then I'll open it up for some questions or comments.
Sure, thank you. So as I said, it's Bern here. I'll take the report as read, but with a couple of things to highlight. The incident reports obviously are very reflective of COVID, with the reduced number of incidents in March and April. Under the contract management system with SiteWise, you'll note that SiteWise have introduced a new feature which is very useful, where our contractors can upload their COVID response plans. So when we're selecting a contractor, we can review those without having to seek them directly from them. In the COVID response, just bearing in mind, of course, at the time of the report, we were working at level 3. And so the documents there are our baseline documents, but pertain directly to level 3. And the three things that I wanted just to raise is that going forward for the immediate long-term future probably is that we must maintain the increased levels of hygiene. We must maintain physical distancing and maintain an ability to contact trace anyone that comes into our manned facilities. So obviously at level 2 we're doing all of those things and doing them really well. It's working very well. The focus, I think, or one of my concerns is that complacency is a real risk, and so renewed and consistent communication around the fact that, as Sancha pointed out earlier in the meeting, COVID is still with us, and we need to maintain vigilance on that. But other than that, as I said, I'll take the report as read and happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I'll open it up to the committee. You've got any questions or comments for Ben?
I do, Madam Chair. It's Tim here. The incident statistics, very difficult to read, but secondly, it doesn't really tell us a great deal because there's no comparative. I don't know whether we're getting better, we're getting worse. Obviously, we're getting a lot better because nothing's happening with COVID. But how does February 2020 relate to February 19, February 18, and so forth? And just the format. I mean, the degree of seriousness, I can see we've got biohazards and environment and so forth, but there's no indication there of how serious these are. I mean, seeing non-injury at 0, I was about to say that's good, but it doesn't really. Yeah. So look, I'm not sure the purpose of those stats, because they don't really tell me a hell of a lot, I guess is what I'm saying.
Point taken. I'm more than happy to review how they're displayed and the information that we're pulling down from the software with your guidance.
Well, if other members feel that way, it may just be me. I'm not sure. I'm just raising it for discussion.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I think what we've got here is snapshots of data. What we really, if we had trend analysis, or just the line charts showing the differentials, then we'd get more information from it, because it gives more context. But the question I had was, how does this report differ, or is it the same report that is currently being presented to, say, the executive?
As in the incident statistics, the graphing is the same that is reported to the Health and Safety Committee.
Oh, sorry, Health and Safety Committee. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But the Health and Safety Committee would get a more granular report. Would that be the differential?
Sorry, can you expand on that?
Well, when you said that with response to the graphics, that's what the Health and Safety Committee gets. But we've got this report. Is it created specifically for us, or is it also what gets reported to the Health and Safety Committee, or does the Health and Safety Committee get something like this but with more detail?
Is now joining.
So the graphics of the incidents are identical to what is reported to the Health and Safety Committee. There may be more commentary and definitions in there is more commentary in the Health and Safety Committee report, explaining what all of those ratings are, and which would possibly answer one of Tim's points, that by defining what the ratings mean, it does indicate the seriousness of the incidents.
But certainly I think having that ability to see how we're tracking over time would be very, very helpful, just in that area. Yeah. And I assume the system can do that. We're not asking for anything that's sort of suddenly.
No, no problem at all.
Okay.
Just a matter of me working it out.
So any other comments or questions? Nigel, Stephen, Tim again? Okay. Sorry, who was that?
That was Tim. I think the next time I see this, I'm going to get a fuller picture, and that makes me happier. Thank you.
Okay. I did have one question. Well, two questions actually. Looking at the psychological side of things, and you talked about sort of the external training that's done or what's available to staff. Does CODC have, as a matter of course, access to EAP type services? A lot of companies do, so I'm assuming so, but just wondering.
Yes, we do. We have a full-time contract with Workplace Support, and it is promoted to staff in multiple ways, at inductions, on the staff notice boards, on our local intranet, and it is the first point of call when I'm in conversation with anyone that may be having issues, as a directive to approach them for some support. So yeah, well used.
Yep, okay. Because one thing that occurred to me with the report too is what we've got at the moment is very much what are called lag indicators.
Absolutely.
The challenge is often to try to find the lead indicators and sort of access to that EAP type services. Obviously, it's confidential who's using it, but just keeping track of the numbers can be a good lead indicator of sort of emerging stress or issues around wellbeing in the staff, as can sort of tracking sick leave. So is that as a matter of course, you guys do track that for Health and Safety Committee?
The committee hasn't been privy to that information, but it's certainly something I can raise with the executive that we can look at receiving that data.
Yeah, because I think that would be worthwhile, perhaps in this report as well, if you're putting it up to Health and Safety. But they're very good lead indicators of stress or unwellness or within the staff. And given what we're going through at the moment, I think would be well worth keeping an eye on.
Absolutely.
Sanchia, anything you'd like to add to this? I assume you chair the Health and Safety Committee, do you?
Almost all of the time, yeah. Except for the odd occasion when I can't make it, and then another member of the executive team does. Just to say that we do promote the workplace support very proactively, often through updates from myself and our grapevine and all the ways that Bern mentioned. Workplace support also often come to the building for a workaround, so rather than taking individual appointments, they walk through the building and just chat with people and check in on them, make sure that they're available, that people know their services are available, and often just check in on people that they might have had previous contact with and just see how they are going. Also during COVID-19, we did conduct a remote working and wellness survey of staff, which we will look to repeat in due course. It came back with very good results around wellbeing. Probably it was very surprising how well staff were doing and making the most of lockdown, etc. The one thing that did come up is obviously concerns around finances and job security and income, and I think that's a global concern at the moment.
Oh. Okay, all right. Well, I think it's a very good report, and please, when we say can we see this or see that not a criticism. It's really just a suggestion of a little bit more information that could be helpful. Guys, have you got any other comments or questions, or should we just receive the report as it is for now?
No, I was Stephen here, and I was going to comment. There's a hell of a lot of good information in that report.
Yeah. Great. Okay. So I think acknowledge that. So formally, we recommended that the report be received. I will so move. We can second that.
I'll do that, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Tim. Okay, all those in favour say aye.
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 Against? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Bern. That's very, very good. Very helpful.
Thank you.
Okay. And yeah, I think the COVID response material is absolutely excellent. It's very thorough. Very good. Oh, is she gone? Was she still there? Sorry, I had one more question. We have people logging in, coming in and using that wee iPad to log into receptions. And you need to do that to keep track of people. Is that iPad cleaned after each login?
So in response to COVID, we have removed the tablets at both Cromwell and at Alexandra, where they were located, and we're using the contact tracing QR code reader at the front door of all our buildings. So it's the same ability to track right through. And sanitisers offered at the entrance of both buildings, or all buildings as well.
Oh, great. Okay, so the login procedure's changed to that.
It has.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I'd forgotten to ask that earlier.
No problem.
Right, we move to Policy and Strategy Register.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Matt here.
Hi, Matt.
I take the updated register as read, noting the changes since your last meeting in late February. Despite the challenges of the last few months, it's good to see that we've still got things are still progressing. There's been several items that have been completed since the last meeting, with a further handful to be discussed at Council next week. if we acknowledge that the effects of COVID are likely to cause some priorities to shift, and discussions around what that means for work programs is ongoing. So some of that's not really reflected in this register to date, but where those discussions have been had, they have been reflected in the register. So don't have much more to say than that. I'll turn over to questions from members.
Okay. Well, perhaps if I can just start with saying great work, because now we've actually got a good list and a cohesive list of policies and strategies, and a lot of work. You can see a lot of work's been done on this, and we're making great progress. So just want to congratulate or acknowledge the hard work that management's put in on that. So just open for any questions or comments. Okay, nothing. Okay, I do note that we've got quite a lot on this list coming up for review in June. So that are all meant to go through the Audit and Risk Committee. So if we set that other meeting in particular for the procurement policy, but given all of these that we've been told will be ready for June, if we get as many as possible through in that meeting, I think that would be great, as on the list here.
Cool. Yeah, noted. I do note as well that there's probably some conversations to be had around some of those items that haven't been had to date, but we'll do our best to get as many through to you as we can.
Great, yeah. Especially, I think the risk management policy, if we can, we may not get the register, but if we could get the policy, I think that would be excellent. Okay, right, so the recommendation is that the report be received. I will so move. We can have that.
I'll second that, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Tim. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Great, thanks. Thanks, Matt. Great work. Okay, next item is the Chair's report. I have nothing to report, so we don't need to receive that one. Do we have anything from members to report?
Nothing from me, Madam Chair.
No, anyone else?
Nothing from me, Madam Chair.
Nothing from me.
Awesome, okay, so we don't need to receive either of those if there's nothing to report. So now we are moving to corporate services status update. Now I think Leanne, you're just going to take us through this briefly. We lost Leanne.
Madam Chair, it's Rebecca here.
Hi.
I could just perhaps note while we find Leanne that all the matters there have been closed. So
yeah,
perhaps just if there's any questions.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions? I didn't have any, so.
Given they're all closed, it's probably just a matter of receiving them, Madam Chair.
Okay, we'll do that. All right, so the recommendation is that the report be received. I will so move.
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Okay. And then date of the next meeting is the next agenda item, and we've got all that up in the air. We've got no idea when we're meeting next, so we'll just see how we go. But we're aiming for sometime late in June to do a policy review, and we may be doing a September meeting rather than October for end of year annual report. So we'll just we'll leave that with management to communicate to us.
I wonder if that needs to be recorded. Rebecca, you may have a view. Sorry, Madam Chair, I'm just prefacing before we move away and leave that with that on the record.
It's Rebecca here. So we will get those dates sorted and then advertise according to Lagoima and the LGA.
Absolutely. I'm just wondering about what's on our current agenda, whether we need to reflect that that isn't going to be the date of the next meeting, because if we just move on, that will remain standing, so to speak.
Yeah.
Or
So
am I
we'll
being
just say,
overruled?
just say that's okay. So we do need to move that then. That's not the date of the next meeting, and we are looking to have a meeting in June. And we will probably have another one in September, subject to getting finalisation of the audit timetable.
So we can just have the minutes reflect that there will be additional meetings added to the schedule.
Great.
Yep.
Okay. We don't need to move anything. Just note it.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Right. We now are moving into committee into closed session, but also note that Ewan Skinner, who is the director of Morrison Lowe, will be permitted to join the closed session for the item 20.2.6 as the author of the Lake Dunstan Water Supply Contract Independent Audit Report. I will so move that we go into closed session. Can someone second that?
I'll do that, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Tim.
And I'll just end the, oh, sorry.
That's all right. Shall we all approve that? All in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried.
Just ending the live streaming now.
Great, thank you. Okay.